This is a brief presentation taking you through some of the processes of selecting keywords and modifying what you search for as your results come up. Brainstorming. The brainstorming process involves listing all of the keywords that could describe your topic. You won't necessarily think of them all the first time around, but as you come across articles that are relevant to your subject, other keywords and terms that you can search for may become evident. You need to identify synonyms and alternate spellings, i.e. UK versus US. Some databases will automatically look for these variant spellings, but others may expect you to use wildcard symbols to signify that you want to look for those variations, and there is another presentation on wildcards available for you to view. You need to formulate your research question. You may also be using an assignment title that's been provided to you. This will give you an idea of the direction and scope of your research, as well as providing you with the initial terms that you can search for. Try and discover whether there are any key papers that have already been published within this field of research. Do they provide you with additional or alternate keywords that you can search for? Are there any easily identifiable key authors? Does a particular name or names keep coming up within that field of research? When you look at the references of the articles that you found, is there a particular author or group of authors that are continuously cited by other people? And for the key papers and key authors, your lecturer or supervisor may be able to help get you started. Was this research a hot topic in the past, but you've discovered that there's no recent material available? So is there a lot of current interest, or is there a large gap in the literature? If there is a gap in the literature, it could either signify that people aren't currently researching in that field, possibly due to funding or interest, or it could mean that there are large research projects ongoing, but they haven't reached the point where they can formally publish. You can run a quick search on one of our databases to scope out available material, and you can do this for a snapshot of what is available and how relevant or timely it may be to your research. Some of our databases are dedicated to one subject or grouping of subjects, for instance business, which covers business, management, human resources and marketing, or health, which covers nursing, occupational therapy, radiography, health management, public health and so on. Others will be dedicated to single subjects such as education or law. So here we have an example question. What information can be derived from a range of evidence into the support needs of people caring for someone who has Alzheimer's disease in order to facilitate a support group? Now from this, we would need to draw out the initial terms to search for and also any possible variant terms as well. Alzheimer's disease is already specific, so we don't actually need other terms. If the term was actually dementia instead, then we might also want to look for Alzheimer's Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome. Carers and caregivers, depending on the database being searched, you may find that a keyword is particular to the UK or Europe. In this example, for the databases that would be used for a health subject, term A is UK European terminology, carers, and term B, caregivers, is US terminology. So you would need to look for both in order to ensure that you've mined the database's content for all instances of that term that may be relevant. Self-help and support groups. Caregiver support, psychosocial, coping and caregiver burden. Again, depending on the database, you may search for terms just as keywords, which means you would look in the abstract or the title or the full text of an article, or you might look for the terms as subject headings, and these may have been given to the article by its authors, or they may have been assigned when the article was added to the database. This can have an impact if you're using a database that's US in origin, as the subject headings given to the articles may be different to UK European terminology. If you have any concerns or questions, get in touch with your subject librarian for advice. Citation pearl growing. If you're having trouble coming up with keywords or terms that you can use to implement your search, then one method of tracking down keywords is to use the citation pearl growing approach, and a lot of people actually use this approach without knowing what it's called. Step 1 is to get hold of a well-known or highly relevant article in your field of research. So when you talk to people about your research topic, what article do they mention as the key resource for that topic? Once you have that article, you then need to implement step 2, which is to go through the body of the article itself, looking for any key terms or phrases that are relevant to your research topic that you can search for in our databases in either the thesauri, essentially their subject heading directories, or in the abstract article title searching sections. Step 3 is really more of a step 1.1, where if you're having trouble tracking down the pearl in your subject area, you should use the keywords that you've thought of through the brainstorming process to try and locate that article, and then when you find it, initiate step 2 and go through it. Step 4 is to go through all of the databases and any other sources of information that you've identified as being potential providers of relevant articles and information, using the terms that you've discovered via the citation pearl growing process. And essentially, you just keep going until no new material becomes available. An alternative to the citation pearl growing process is snowball searching, and this is based on using the references of articles that you found to build up a body of results. So step 1, as with citation pearl growing, is to get that one key article. Step 2 is to look at the references cited by that article and then go and find them online or in print. Step 3 would be when you have those articles, you would look at their references, track down the articles, and so on. And then step 4 is simply repeating step 3 until nothing new or pertinent comes up. Now there are issues with the snowball technique. The first being that references do have the potential to be biased, as people are more likely, although not exclusively, to cite works that support their central theme. It's also time consuming, as you will have to look up each individual reference to locate the abstract and then make a decision as to whether or not you think it's useful or not. If an article isn't available online full text, so if only the abstract is visible, you won't always have access to the references for those articles, so you would have to request them first through the interlibrary loans process if you're eligible, and when they arrive go through their references, looking them up and so on. It's a good idea, if you are going to use the snowball technique, to actually use it in conjunction with something else. So use it alongside citation pearl growing, use it alongside brainstorming. Don't just use the snowball technique on its own. So we've got here a generic example of a research topic, transferable skills of research students. So skills that they can learn or develop for one aspect of their study and then apply it to other scenarios such as more research, more teaching, or in the workplace. Now keywords that you might select from the title are of course transferable, skills, research and students. You could also look at the alternative keywords listed here, such as transferability, movable, assignable, ability, competence, expertise, researchers, PhD, EdD, and so on. It's not just individual keywords that you can look for either. You can use phrases to build up your search string, so you would look for transferable skills as one search, and research students as another. You could perhaps look for research competencies and tie that in with transferability. And don't forget, as you read more, you will come across additional keywords that you can use to further refine or define the scope of your topic. This has been a brief presentation on selecting keywords for your research. If you have any problems accessing the online resources, or if you have any questions, please get in touch with the library or with your subject librarian. Thank you for listening.